The Revelation. The lecture hall of the Galactic Academy of Advanced Studies buzzed with excitement as students from 100 different species settled into their seats. Professor Lyra Starlight, a renowned human historian, stood at the podium, her holographic display flickering to life behind her. Zix 427, a Centauri student, leaned forward, his four eyes blinking in rapid succession. Like most of his kind, Zix was tall and insectoid, with an exoskeleton that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. He prided himself on his species' martial prowess and was eager to learn about humanity's great conquests. Today, Professor Starlight began, her voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. We'll discuss humanity's role in the galactic unification war of 2750. Zix's antennae twitched in anticipation. He had heard tales of this conflict, how it had shaped the modern galaxy. Surely this would be a tale of glorious battles and decisive victories. Contrary to popular belief, the professor continued, humanity's greatest contribution to the war effort was not through direct combat, but through diplomacy, economic pressure, and strategic alliances. A confused murmur rippled through the audience. Zix felt his mandibles clench in disbelief. This couldn't be right. Professor Starlight went on, describing how human negotiators had brokered peace between warring factions, how Earth's economic policies had starved aggressive empires of resources, and how carefully cultivated alliances had shifted the balance of power without a single shot fired. But Professor Zix found himself speaking before he could stop himself, his voice laced with confusion and a hint of outrage. If humans possessed superior firepower, why not use it? Why show mercy to their enemies? The professor's gaze settled on Zix, her expression thoughtful. An excellent question. You see, humanity's history is fraught with devastating conflicts. We learned, through terrible loss, that victory through annihilation is no victory at all. She brought up images of Earth's past wars, cities reduced to rubble, forests turned to ash, and countless lives lost. These scars taught us to seek alternatives to violence, to find strength in restraint rather than aggression. Zix's mind reeled. This concept of mercy, of holding back despite having the power to destroy, was utterly alien to him. In Centauri culture, strength was everything. Showing mercy was seen as weakness, an invitation for enemies to strike. As the lecture concluded, Zix remained in his seat, lost in thought. His entire worldview had been challenged. If humans, with all their power, chose peace over domination, what did that mean for the Centauri way of life? A soft voice interrupted his musings. Quite a shock, isn't it? Zix turned to see Ayla, a Thessalian student. Her species was known for their empathic abilities and pursuit of knowledge. Her iridescent scales shimmered as she tilted her head, studying Zix with curiosity. I don't understand, Zix admitted. How can mercy be a strength? Ayla's lips curved into a gentle smile. Perhaps that's something worth exploring. Care to join me in the library? I have a feeling there's much more to this story than what we've been told. Zix hesitated. Pursuing this line of inquiry felt dangerously close to questioning the very foundations of Centauri society. And yet, the seed of curiosity had been planted. He needed to know more. All right, he said, mandibles clicking nervously. Let's see what we can uncover. As they left the lecture hall, neither Zix nor Ayla noticed the shadowy figure watching them from the corner, eyes narrowed with suspicion. The revelation of human mercy was not welcome news to everyone, and the ripples of this discovery were only beginning to spread across the galactic community. Investigation and doubt. The Academy's Grand Library was a marvel of architecture and technology, its vast halls filled with databanks containing the collective knowledge of thousands of civilizations. Zix and Ayla made their way through the towering shelves, their footsteps echoing in the hushed atmosphere. Here, Ayla said, gesturing to a secluded study pod, we can access the historical archives without interruption. As they settled in, the pod's holographic interface sprang to life. Zix's clawed hands hovered over the controls, hesitating. Where do we even begin? Ayla's fingers danced across the interface. Let's start with Earth's history. If we want to understand their approach to the Galactic Unification War, we need to see what shaped their perspective. The next few hours were a whirlwind of information. Zix and Ayla delved into humanity's past conflicts, world wars that spanned continents, cold wars held in check only by the threat of mutual annihilation, and countless smaller skirmishes that scurred the planet's surface. By the stars, Zix muttered, his exoskeleton paling as he absorbed the scale of destruction. How did they survive this? Ayla's eyes were wide with a mix of horror and fascination. Look at this, the development of nuclear weapons, the power to destroy entire cities in an instant. They watched historical footage of mushroom clouds rising over devastated landscapes, of civilians fleeing war-torn regions, of soldiers returning home broken in body and spirit. Each image, each data point, chipped away at Zix's preconceptions. But they stopped. Ayla pointed out, bringing up more recent historical records. See here, global disarmament treaties, the formation of the United Earth Government, the Great Reconciliation. They chose to step back from the brink. Zix's antennae drooped as he processed this information. In Centauri culture, this would be seen as weakness. We're taught that peace is achieved through strength, through the ability to crush our enemies. Ayla gave him a sidelong glance, and yet, here we are, centuries later, and humanity is a dominant force in the galaxy. Not through conquest, but through cooperation. Their research led them to the early days of human space exploration. Zix was surprised to learn that humanity's first contacts with alien life were peaceful, marked by cautious diplomacy rather than aggression. They were afraid, Ayla realized, reading through first contact protocols, not just of potential alien threats, but of repeating their own mistakes on a galactic scale. As they delved deeper into the archives, a pattern began to emerge. Time and again, humanity faced conflicts where they held a significant technological or strategic advantage. And time and again, they chose restraint over total victory. Look at this, Zix said, bringing up records of the Proxima Centauri dispute. Humanity had developed quantum displacement technology. They could have wiped out the entire Centaurian fleet in seconds. Ayla leaned in, her scales shimmering with interest. But they didn't. Why? They found their answer in the personal logs of Admiral Helena Chen, the human commander during the dispute. Her words scrolled across the holographic display. We stand at a crossroads. With a single command, I could end this conflict decisively. Our quantum displacers would scatter the Centaurian ships across light years of space. Victory would be absolute and immediate. But at what cost? How many lives would be lost? How many civilizations would look upon Earth with fear rather than friendship? We've walked this path before, on our own world, and we've seen where it leads. No, there must be another way. We will extend our hand in peace, even in the face of aggression. That is true strength. Zix sat back, his mind reeling. This philosophy was so at odds with everything he had been taught, and yet he couldn't deny the results. Humanity had achieved through diplomacy and restraint what the Centauri had always sought through force. There's more, Ayla said, her voice hushed. During the Galactic Unification War, humanity had developed weapons far beyond anything we've seen. Look at these schematics. The holographic display filled with technical drawings and simulations, planet-cracking missiles, gravity wells that could tear fleets apart, temporal disruptors capable of facing entire star systems out of sync with the rest of the universe. By the void, Zix breathed. With arsenals like these, they could have dominated the galaxy. Why hide this? Their answer came in the form of classified diplomatic communications, encoded transmissions between Earth's leaders and their allies, discussing the ethical implications of their technological superiority. One message, from the human president to the Galactic Council, stood out. We possess the power to end this war in a day, to reshape the galaxy as we see fit. But we remember the weight of such decisions. We've seen civilizations fall to their own hubris, watched as victors became tyrants. Humanity chooses a different path. We will use our strength not to conquer, but to protect. Not to destroy, but to build. We extend our hand to all species, even those who now oppose us. For in unity, in diversity, in the complex tapestry of galactic life, we find a strength far greater than any weapon could provide. As the message faded, Zix and Ayla sat in stunned silence. The implications of their discoveries were staggering. Humanity's power, their potential for destruction, far exceeded anything they had imagined. And yet, they had chosen restraint, mercy, and cooperation. "We need to share this," Ayla said, her voice filled with urgency. "The galaxy needs to understand." A shadow fell across their study pod. They looked up to see a group of Centauri students, led by Kraz 902, Zix's clutchmate. His exoskeleton bristled with aggression. "Share what, exactly?" Kraz growled. "More human lies, more weakness disguised as virtue." Zix rose, his own posture defensive. "Kraz, you don't understand. What we found is treason." Kraz cut him off. "You shame our species by buying into this human propaganda. The elders need to know about this. Your obsession with human mercy ends now." As Kraz and his followers stormed off, Zix and Ayla exchanged worried glances. Their pursuit of knowledge had opened their eyes, but it had also set in motion events that threatened to spiral out of control. The truth about humanity's approach to war and peace was about to send shockwaves through the galactic community, and they were at the epicenter. Cultural clash. News of Zix and Ayla's research spread through the academy like wildfire. What had begun as a private inquiry soon became the subject of heated debates in classrooms, dormitories, and social gatherings across campus. The revelation of humanity's true power and their choice to wield it with restraint polarized the student body. In the central courtyard, an impromptu forum had formed. Students from dozens of species clustered in groups, their voices rising in passionate argument. Zix and Ayla stood at the fringes, watching as their discoveries sparked a cultural revolution. "The humans are wise beyond measure," a Thraxi philosopher student was saying, her tendrils waving excitedly. "To possess such power and choose peace, it's the height of enlightenment." "Enlightenment," scoffed a Cronin warrior scholar, his stone-like skin grating as he shook his head. "It's cowardice, plain and simple. Power unused is power wasted." Ayla leaned close to Zix, her voice low. "I never imagined it would cause such an uproar. Perhaps we should have been more careful with this information." Zix's antennae twitched nervously. "Too late for that now. But maybe this discourse is necessary. Look how it's making everyone question their assumptions." Indeed, all around them, long-held beliefs were being challenged. Species that had been bitter enemies found common ground in their admiration or disdain for human philosophy. Old alliances strained as differences in values came to light. A group of Centauri students, led by Kraz, approached Zix and Ayla. Their postures were aggressive, mandibles clicking in agitation. "You've brought shame to our entire species," Kraz hissed. "The elders are furious. They're demanding your research be suppressed, calling it a threat to our way of life." Zix stood his ground, though his exoskeleton paled slightly. "The truth is not a threat, Kraz. We've been wrong about humans, about the nature of strength itself. Can't you see the potential in their approach?" Kraz's multifaceted eyes glittered dangerously. "I see weakness being celebrated. I see our proud warrior culture being undermined by alien philosophies. This ends now." As tensions rose, Professor Starlight arrived on the scene, her presence commanding immediate attention. She surveyed the chaotic courtyard with a mix of concern and pride. "Students," she called out, her voice carrying over the din. "I see that recent revelations have stirred quite the controversy. Good. Question everything. Challenge your preconceptions. This is the heart of true learning." She made her way to where Zix and Ayla stood, facing the angry Centauri delegation. "Your discoveries have opened a vital dialogue, one that's long overdue. But remember, understanding takes time. Patience and open-mindedness are key. Kraz bristled. With all due respect, Professor, this goes beyond academic debate. The very foundations of our societies are being shaken. How can we trust humans, knowing they possess planet-killing weapons? How can we respect a species that chooses not to use its full strength? Professor Starlight's gaze was steady. Trust and respect are earned through actions, not firepower. Humanity's choice to prioritize peace over domination has led to centuries of stability and progress. Is that not a show of strength in itself? As the debate raged on, news arrived that sent shockwaves through the assembly. A delegation of Centauri elders was en route to the Academy, demanding a full investigation into the subversive human propaganda being spread by their own kind. Simultaneously, representatives from a dozen other species were calling for open forums to discuss the implications of human philosophy on interstellar relations. The Galactic Council itself was convening an emergency session to address the upheaval. Zix felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What had begun as a simple quest for knowledge had blossomed into a cultural revolution that threatened to reshape the galaxy's political landscape. "We need to do something," he said to Ayla, his voice filled with determination. "We can't let fear and misunderstanding drive us back into conflict. There must be a way to bridge these divides." Ayla nodded, her scales shimmering with resolve. "You're right, but how do we convince species so set in their ways that there's value in mercy, in restraint?" The professor's eyes lit up. "An excellent suggestion. I'll contact the Earth Embassy immediately. If we can give students the opportunity to experience human culture firsthand, it might bridge the gap between abstract knowledge and true understanding." As Professor Starlight hurried off to make arrangements, the courtyard continued to buzz with debate. Zix and Ayla found themselves at the center of it all, fielding questions and trying to mediate disputes between opposing factions. "But how can we be sure the humans won't eventually use their power against us?" a nervous Phloxian student asked, their bioluminescent skin pulsing with anxiety. Zix considered this for a moment. "From what we've learned, humans have had countless opportunities to dominate other species, yet they've consistently chosen cooperation. Their history shows a pattern of learning from mistakes, not repeating them." Ayla added, "And remember, by sharing this knowledge with us, they've made themselves vulnerable. They're trusting us with the truth about their capabilities." As the discussions continued, news screens around the courtyard suddenly lit up with an urgent broadcast. The Galactic Council's emergency session had reached a dramatic turning point. Footage showed the Centauri representative, Elder Vex 819, addressing the assembly. "We cannot stand idly by while human influence corrupts our youth and weakens our defenses," Elder Vex declared, his exoskeleton bristling with righteous anger. "The Centauri Imperium hereby demands that Earth surrender its hidden arsenals for galactic safekeeping or face the consequences." A shocked murmur ran through the courtyard. Zix felt his heart sink. This was exactly the kind of confrontation they'd hoped to avoid. The cameras panned to the human representative, Ambassador Sarah Chen. Her calm demeanor stood in stark contrast to the Centauri's aggressive posturing. "Respected members of the Council," Ambassador Chen began, her voice steady. "Earth understands the fears that our philosophy and technology have stirred. We have no desire for conflict. In the spirit of transparency and trust, we invite a delegation from every member species to visit Earth. See for yourselves how we live, how we've integrated our past lessons into our present society. Let us turn this moment of tension into an opportunity for greater understanding." The courtyard erupted in a cacophony of reactions. Some students cheered the human offer, while others remained skeptical. Kraz and his followers huddled together, their expressions dark. "It's a trick," Kraz hissed. "They'll only show us what they want us to see. We need to take action, to prove that the old ways, are superior." Zix overheard this and felt a chill run down his exoskeleton. He turned to Ayla. worry evident in his multifaceted eyes. I fear Kraz and others like him might do something rash. We need to find a way to promote understanding before this escalates further. Ayla nodded, her scales shimmering with determination. You're right. But how do we reach those who are so set in their beliefs? Their answer came from an unexpected source. Tizil, a Volcran empath known for her ability to sense emotional currents, approached them. Her ethereal form seemed to shimmer with the tumultuous feelings swirling through the courtyard. Your discovery has opened many eyes, but also many old wounds, Tizil said, her voice a soothing melody. To truly understand the human way, perhaps we must experience it for ourselves. She turned to Professor Starlight. Professor, is there a way we could arrange direct cultural exchanges with Earth? Not just academic studies, but true immersion in human society. The professor's eyes lit up. An excellent suggestion. I'll contact the Earth Embassy immediately, if we can give students the opportunity to. Their conversation was interrupted by Professor Starlight's return. Her face was alight with excitement. Good news. The Earth Embassy has agreed to an immediate cultural exchange program. They're offering spots for students from every species represented at the Academy. A ripple of excitement ran through the crowd. Even some of the more skeptical students seemed intrigued by the opportunity. This is our chance, Zix said, his antennae quivering with anticipation. We can see for ourselves the truth behind human philosophy. Maybe if we can understand it better, we can help others understand too. Ayla smiled, placing a gentle hand on Zix's arm. Count me in. Someone needs to keep you out of trouble. As students began to sign up for the Earth Exchange program, Zix couldn't help but notice Kraz and a few other Centauri slipping away from the courtyard, their heads bent in secretive conversation. A sense of unease settled over him. While this cultural exchange was a step in the right direction, he couldn't shake the feeling that some were not ready to give peace a chance. The coming days would be crucial. As the galaxy teetered on the brink between greater understanding and potential conflict, Zix realized that the true test of human philosophy, and his own evolving beliefs, was yet to come. The journey to Earth would be more than just a cultural exchange. It would be a mission to preserve the fragile peace of the galaxy. Looming crisis. The sleek interstellar transport hummed softly as it approached Earth's orbit. Zix pressed his face against the viewport, his 4 eyes wide with wonder as the blue-green planet grew larger. Beside him, Ayla's scales shimmered with excitement. It's beautiful, Zix murmured. Hard to believe this one world has influenced galactic politics so profoundly. The passenger compartment was a microcosm of galactic diversity. Students from dozens of species chattered excitedly or sat in contemplative silence, each wrestling with their own preconceptions about humanity and their place in the cosmos. As the ship began its descent, Zix couldn't help but notice the conspicuous absence of Kraz and his most ardent followers. They had declined to join the cultural exchange, citing loyalty to Centauri traditions. Zix's antennae twitched with worry, remembering the anger and suspicion in Kraz's eyes. The Earth Cultural Exchange Program had been meticulously planned. For the next 2 weeks, the alien students would be immersed in various aspects of human society, from bustling megacities to quiet rural communities, from centers of governance to hubs of artistic expression. Their first stop was New Shanghai, a sprawling metropolis that seamlessly blended ultra-modern architecture with carefully preserved historical districts. As they disembarked, the students were greeted by a diverse group of human hosts. "Welcome to Earth," a tall woman with dark skin and a warm smile said. "I'm Dr. Amelia Wong, your LID cultural liaison. We're thrilled to have you here and eager to share our world with you." The next few days were a whirlwind of experiences. Zix found himself constantly amazed by the contradictions of human society. They visited a quantum computing facility where scientists were pushing the boundaries of known physics, then attended a traditional tea ceremony that had remained unchanged for centuries. How do you balance such rapid progress with preserving your heritage? Zix asked Dr. Wong as they walked through a holographic art installation. Dr. Wong's eyes crinkled with amusement. It's not always easy, but we've learned that our strength lies in diversity. Of thought, of culture, of approach. We don't always agree, but we strive to respect and learn from our differences. This philosophy was evident everywhere they went. In a single day, they observed a passionate debate in the Global Senate, where representatives from every nation argued fiercely but respectfully, then attended a multicultural festival where those same nations celebrated their unique traditions side by side. For many of the alien students, the most profound experiences came from their homestays with human families. Six found himself welcomed into the home of the Garcias, a family with roots in both Earth and the colonies of Mars. Over a home-cooked meal, Elena Garcia, the family matriarch, regaled Zix with stories of her grandfather's role in the early Mars terraforming projects. It wasn't easy, she said, her eyes misting with emotion. So many challenges, so many losses. But we persevered, not through force, but through cooperation and innovation. Zix's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. In Centauri culture, such hardships would be seen as a test of strength. The weak would be left behind. Elena's young daughter, Sophia, piped up. But isn't it stronger to help each other? To make sure everyone survives? The simple wisdom of the child's words struck Zix deeply. He was beginning to understand the true nature of human strength, not domination, but collective resilience. As the exchange program progressed, Zix noticed a change coming over his fellow students. Species that had arrived full of suspicion were now engaging in earnest cultural exchange. The Thraxi philosopher was deep in discussion with a human ethicist about the nature of consciousness. A Cronan warrior was learning Tai Chi in a serene garden, marveling at the power of soft movements. But just as it seemed that understanding was blooming, troubling news arrived from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Chen contacted Dr. Wong, her holographic form flickering with concern. We've intercepted communications suggesting that a group of hardline Centauri, led by someone named Kraz, is planning some kind of demonstration. The ambassador reported. They're calling it Operation Stree. We've intercepted communications suggesting that a group of hardline Centauri, led by someone named Kraz, is planning some kind of demonstration. The ambassador reported. They're calling it Operation Strength Unveiled. We're not sure of the details, but it seems they're trying to provoke a conflict to expose human weakness. Zix felt his exoskeleton grow cold. Kraz, he chittered softly. I knew he wouldn't let this go. Dr. Wong's face grew serious. This is troubling news. We need to be prepared for any eventuality, but we also can't let fear dictate our actions. That would go against everything we've been trying to show you. The news cast a shadow over the remainder of the exchange program. While the students continued their cultural immersion, there was an undercurrent of tension. Security measures were subtly increased, though the humans took great pains to maintain an atmosphere of openness and trust. As the final days of the program approached, Zix found himself torn. He had come to deeply appreciate the human approach to conflict and cooperation. The strength he had witnessed wasn't in displays of power, but in the resilience of a society that valued diversity and mutual support. Yet he couldn't shake his worry about what Kraz might be planning. On the eve of their departure, the exchange students were invited to a special ceremony at the Global Unity Plaza in Geneva. It was meant to be a celebration of their time on Earth and a symbol of hope for continued intergalactic cooperation. As they gathered in the plaza, surrounded by flags from every nation on Earth and holographic representations of member species from across the galaxy, Zix noticed something odd. A group of unfamiliar Centauri had joined the crowd, their exoskeletons gleaming with an unusual metallic sheen. Before he could point this out to Dr. Wong, the sky suddenly filled with a brilliant light. A massive hologram appeared above the plaza, showing Kraz's face, twisted with righteous anger. People of Earth, galaxy at large, Kraz's voice boomed. You have been deceived by human weakness for too long. Today, we will unveil true strength. The strange Centauri in the crowd began to transform. Their exoskeletons shifted and expanded, revealing hidden weaponry and shielding technology. In moments, they had become living weapons, towering over the shocked crowd. "Behold," Kraz continued, "the pinnacle of Centauri bioengineering. We have combined our natural strength with technology reverse-engineered from human designs. No more hiding behind words of peace. Let us see how your mercy fares against true power." Panic erupted in the plaza. The weaponized Centauri began firing into the air, their energy weapons scorching the sky. It was chaos, but amidst the confusion, Zix noticed something remarkable. Instead of fleeing, many of the humans were moving to protect the alien students, forming living shields with their bodies. Dr. Wang's voice cut through the din, amplified by the plaza's sound system. "Everyone, please remain calm. Proceed to the designated safety areas. Our security forces will handle this." As if on cue, sleek figures in advanced armor appeared on the edges of the plaza. The Earth Defense Force had arrived, their weapons trained on Kraz's followers, but they didn't fire. Instead, a familiar face stepped forward. It was Ambassador Chen, unarmed and unafraid. She walked calmly towards the nearest weaponized Centauri, her hands open in a gesture of peace. "This is not the way," she said, her voice carrying across the now hushed plaza. "You speak of strength, but true strength lies in restraint, in choosing peace even when you have the power to destroy." The Centauri warrior hesitated, his weapon wavering. In that moment of uncertainty, Zix saw his chance. He stepped forward, standing beside Ambassador Chen. "Kraz," he called out, his voice surprisingly steady. "This isn't our way either. Look around you. The humans could have met our threat with overwhelming force. Instead, they offer understanding. That's not weakness. That's a strength we've never understood before." For a tense moment, the plaza was silent. The weaponized Centauri looked to each other, confusion evident in their postures. Then, slowly, one by one, they began to power down their weapons. Kraz's hologram flickered, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "No, you fools. This is our moment, Toe." But his words were cut off as the hologram disappeared. Later, they would learn that the Earth Defense Force had located and neutralized Kraz's hidden ship, using non-lethal methods to capture him and his core followers. As the crisis diffused, a wave of relief washed over the plaza. Humans and aliens alike embraced, the shared experience of danger and resolution creating bonds that transcended species. Zix found himself surrounded by his fellow exchange students, all talking at once about what they had witnessed. The Thraxi philosopher was gesticulating excitedly about the ethical implications of the humans' response. The Krumman warrior stood silent, a new respect evident in his stony features. Dr. Wang approached Zix, her face beaming with pride. "You showed true courage today, Zix. You put into practice everything you've learned about human philosophy, and in doing so, you may have prevented a galactic conflict." Zix's antennae twitched modestly. "I only spoke the truth as I've come to understand it. But this isn't the end. There will be consequences, debates." Ambassador Chen joined them, nodding in agreement. "Indeed, this incident will spark discussions across the galaxy, but that's good. Through dialogue, through cultural exchange like what you've experienced here, we can build bridges of understanding." As the cleanup began and statements were prepared for the Galactic Council, Zix realized that his journey was far from over. He had come to Earth seeking knowledge, and he would return home with a mission. The true test would be sharing what he had learned, helping his own people and others across the galaxy understand the strength that lies in mercy, in restraint, in choosing peace even in the face of provocation. The crisis had been averted, but the real work of building lasting intergalactic understanding was just beginning. And Zix, along with his fellow exchange students, would be at the forefront of this new frontier. Understanding and resolution. The return journey to the Galactic Academy was charged with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The exchange students, once divided by their preconceptions, now found themselves united by their shared experiences on Earth. As their ship cruised through hyperspace, Zix sat with Ayla and a diverse group of their peers, all eagerly discussing the events of the past weeks. "I still can't believe how the humans responded to Kraz's attack," marveled Lirith, a Thraxi student whose tendrils waved with enthusiasm. "They had every right to retaliate with force, yet they chose diplomacy first." Gronx, the Cronan warrior scholar, nodded his stony head. "It challenged everything I thought I knew about strength. To face a threat without violence, it requires a different kind of courage." Zix clicked his mandibles in agreement. "That's what we need to help others understand. The human way isn't about being weak or passive. It's about finding strength and unity in understanding." As they neared the academy, news reached them that the Galactic Council had convened an emergency session to address the fallout from Kraz's failed demonstration. The students' testimonies would be crucial in shaping the galaxy's understanding of recent events. Upon their arrival, they found the academy in a state of controlled chaos. News crews from across the galaxy crowded the grounds, eager to interview the returning exchange students. Species that had long been at odds were now engaged in heated but respectful debates about the implications of human philosophy. Professor Starlight greeted them at the landing pad, her face a mix of relief and pride. "Welcome back," she said warmly. "Your experiences and insights are going to be invaluable in the coming days. The Council is eager to hear from you all." The next few days were a whirlwind of debriefings, interviews, and preparations for their address to the Galactic Council. Zix found himself working closely with students from various species, each bringing their unique perspective to craft a message of unity and understanding. Finally, the day of the council session arrived. The Grand Chamber was packed with representatives from every corner of the galaxy, their faces etched with concern and curiosity. At the center stood a group of Earth's top diplomats, including Ambassador Chen, ready to address the assembled delegates. As the session began, accusations and demands flew. Some species called for sanctions against the Centauri for their aggression. Others demanded that Earth surrender its advanced technology, arguing that it was too dangerous to be held by a single species. The tension in the room was palpable. Then it was time for the exchange students to speak. Zix stepped forward, flanked by Ayla and representatives from a dozen other species. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "Esteemed members of the Council," he began, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "We came to Earth with our own biases and fears. What we found there challenged everything we thought we knew about strength, about power, about the nature of civilization itself." He went on to describe their experiences, the everyday kindness they witnessed, the vibrant diversity that humans celebrated rather than feared. Each student added their voice, sharing personal anecdotes that illustrated the depth of human philosophy. Ayla spoke of the art she had seen, how humans used creativity to process their painful history and imagine better futures. Grox described learning Tai Chi, understanding the power of gentle movements and inner balance. Lirith shared her conversations with human philosophers, marveling at their ability to question their own assumptions and strive for continuous ethical growth. As they spoke, Zix could see the impact their words were having. The hostility in the chamber gradually gave way to thoughtful consideration. Even some of the more hawkish delegates seemed to be reassessing their positions. Ambassador Chen stepped forward to address the council. "What you've heard today is not propaganda or deception. It's the honest experience of those who took the time to understand us. Yes, humanity possesses great technological power, but our true strength lies in our diversity, our adaptability, and our commitment to peace." She paused, her gaze sweeping the chamber. "We extend an invitation to all species. Come to Earth. See for yourselves. Let us learn from each other, grow together. The challenges we face as a galactic community are too great for any one species to solve alone. It is only through cooperation, through the synthesis of our diverse strengths, that we can build a truly prosperous and peaceful galaxy." The chamber erupted in discussion. It was clear that opinions were shifting, that the possibility of a new approach to galactic relations was taking root. As the session concluded, resolutions were passed to expand cultural exchange programs, to create new forums for interspecies dialogue, and to reassess long-held assumptions about power and diplomacy. The Centauri delegation, chastened by Krasov actions, pledged to reevaluate their own cultural emphasis on aggressive strength. In the days that followed, Zix found himself at the center of a movement. Students and diplomats sought him out, eager to learn more about his experiences on Earth. He worked tirelessly, along with his fellow exchange students, to share their insights and promote understanding. The academy itself was transformed. New courses on comparative philosophy and interspecies ethics were introduced. The library was flooded with requests for information on human history and culture. Even the most skeptical students were beginning to engage with these new ideas. As Zix walked through the academy grounds, now bustling with a newfound energy of cross-cultural exchange, he reflected on how far they had come. The galaxy was still far from perfect harmony, but a seed had been planted. The human philosophy of strength through unity, of power tempered by wisdom and compassion, was beginning to take root. He knew there would be challenges ahead. Changing ingrained beliefs and centuries of mistrust would not happen overnight. But as he watched students from once hostile species engaged in friendly debate, as he saw the spark of curiosity and openness in their eyes, Zix felt a surge of hope. The crisis had been averted, not through force of arms, but through the power of understanding. And in that understanding lay the promise of a brighter future for all species. As Zix looked up at the stars, he knew that their journey was just beginning. The true strength of the galaxy would be found not in domination, but in the bonds forged between diverse peoples, united in their quest for knowledge, peace, and mutual respect. The human way, a path of mercy, restraint, and collaborative strength, was no longer just a human philosophy. It was becoming a galactic ideal, one that Zix and countless others would spend their lives working to uphold and spread across the cosmos.